of the weighing in program at Children's Mercy. Thank you for doing that, Evelyn. This is, as I said, the last quarterly meeting of 2021. I sure hope it is the last fully virtual meeting that we have. We hope that we can at least do something in person in the beginning of 2022. We do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us, and I hope you enjoyed again the networking session. So just a few housekeeping items for today. We'd love for you to include your name with your video so we have an idea of who's with us this morning. Please do mute yourself during the presentation so we can avoid echoes or background noise. And we've heard from many that you may want to change your view to the presenter view, so you have less of your screen covered up by all these beautiful faces as you're seeing the presentation. We will have this meeting recorded, so if you wanted to check back in and remind yourself what was presented, you're welcome to do that. If you miss any portion of it, again, you'd be able to see that recording at a later date. We do have, or Zoom has, closed caption as a new option that's available. If you, I just want to mention that if anybody wants to select that on your screen so you can see what's being said. So with that, I want to, introduce Dr. Ling Kong, our presenter for today. We're really excited to have her share her research with us. Research of Dr. Kong focuses on health during pregnancy and infancy. She aims to identify how eating behaviors in infants and toddlers influence body weight later in life, as well as how early interventions can protect those at risk for obesity. The premise of her work is grounded in the behavioral economics framework and necessitates valid early measures of food and non-food reinforcement. Based on this framework, an individual's choice to obtain commodities such as food or fun activity is influenced by the constraints on those choices, as well as the availability of alternatives surrounding him or her. Secondly, the premise of her work is also grounded by research on environmental enrichment and principle of choice architecture. Literature in these two areas suggests that arrangement of one's physical environment, such as increasing the availability of choices, substitutability between reinforcers, and constraints on complements to eating, can be used to make healthful lifestyle choices more obvious and accessible. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kong and have her share her research with us today.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Let me see if I can share my screen. Do you want to? Yes. Okay. Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me put it to. How about, okay, now. Well, thank you very much, Charlie, and I'm very glad to be here, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to share with you some of the work I've been doing at my own institute and also here at Children's Mercy this morning.
Hi, Kyling, just quick question. You've got it on we can see your next slide too.
Yeah, I switched.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There you go. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, this is a lot better. Hopefully it works. Okay, thank you, Robin. Many of you in this room know the severity of obesity epidemic in the United States and the consequences of this chronic disease. Every time when I get a chance to present my work, I like to update the latest stats on this health concern. And this helps my audience and me to put things in perspective. So I always update the number per the latest data from either CDC or WHO. So according to the latest source, approximately 40% of adults and 20% of children ages 2 to 19 years of age are obese. This has not included those who are overweight. I just want to clarify that. Unfortunately, the COVID pandemic has not helped with this epidemic. During the pandemic, the national rates of obesity among kids ages 2 to 19 years of age increased from previously the number 19.3% to 22.4% in 2020, according to the survey of Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Even though you think 3% might not be a lot, but 3% in a year is quite a significant increase. This graph shows the obesity trend starting from the 60s and the breakdown of the age groups among children and adolescents. The obesity rate, when you look at, let's see if I can get it. When you look at this trend, the 6 to 11 years old and the 12 to 19 years old, they are pretty similar across the past few decades. Unfortunately, children 2 to 5 years of age are catching up. My research focuses on the prevention of obesity during infancy. Systematic reviews indicate that at best, behavior and nutrition intervention in schools and within home have limited success in preventing weight gain among children, especially among low-income diverse population. To be truly comprehensive and successful in stopping the obesity epidemic, efforts targeting the youngest Americans, those who are under 2 years of age, are imperative. Many people don't think infants can be obese or not clear with the definition of obesity for those who are under 2 years of age. Unlike older children and adults, there is no universally accepted definition of overweight obesity for children younger than 2 years of age. However, according to CDC and WHO, infant with a weight for length that is greater or equal to 97.7 percentile is classified as high weight for length, which is obesity. According to the latest data for infants is 2009, 2010 enhanced data, about 10% of infant and toddler are obese. Again, this data has not included those who are overweight. So what are some of the risk factors for infant obesity? Overweight and obese women who gain excessive weight during pregnancy have a higher risk to give birth to a big baby. Infants who consistently experience short sleep duration are at increased risk for rapid weight gain. Infant diet and feeding practices such as early introduction of solid food and to some extent breastfeeding durations are associated with infant obesity. Infant eating behavior during infancy is another risk factor. Unfortunately, we know very little about physical activity during infancy and its impact on infant obesity. Among all of the risk factors I mentioned to you, our lab, the Baby Health Behavior Lab at Children's Mercy Hospital, is particularly interested in two areas. The first area is the infant eating behaviors from the angle of motivation to eat or food reinforcement. And the second area we are studying is infant diet and feeding practices, such as in the area of added sugars and hyperpalatable baby food consumption. I will start with our first area, which is understanding infant food reinforcement. During infancy, food is a primary reinforcer, which means infants do not have to learn to eat. Infants innately engage in nutritive sucking for survival purposes, and it is pleasurable. Research this suggests that early sucking patterns predict childhood obesity a more adverse sucking pattern is positively related to weight gain. This food-seeking behavior may be related to a stronger motivation to eat in some babies or higher food reinforcement. So what is food reinforcement? Again, it is really measure one's motivation to eat. It measures how hard someone will work to gain access to a specific food. The reinforcing value of food is mediated in part by dopaminergic activity. So how does it work? I would like to show you this video, and if you play, see, and I have to end this.
A lot of people that have cats are unknowingly doing something that is shortening their pet's life. I'm in a veterinary.
Are you able to see the video?
Yes, it was
Okay,
funny.
great. So this video demonstrates that the cats will keep pressing the bell to gain access to treats, and we develop a paradigm set very much mimicking this video to collect food reinforcement in infants. Before I show you the video from our lab, I would like to talk about choices. And we know that in our daily life, we face with many choices about how to spend our resources. Eating is not the only activity we engage in, and food is not the only thing that we find pleasurable. So the measurement of relative food reinforcement let us compare our motivation to eat versus our motivation for other activities, such as reading or playing outside. Relative food reinforcement has been measured in preschoolers, children, adolescents, and adults. And the result of all of these studies have shown that overweight and obese individuals find food more reinforcing than the non-food activities. Here is a video to demonstrate how we collect this measurement in our lab. Despite the success of measuring food reinforcement in children and adults, studying the process how food reinforcement developed has been hindered by the lack of measure of studying children younger than 3 years of age. So while I was a postdoc under Dr. Leonard Epstein, I successfully developed these paradigms and to better understand infants' relationship with food. So I would like to show you this video, how we collect the data in our lab.
You push the button like this, we hear a funny noise. That's right. Good job. Good job. That's right. Do you want to hear the funny noise? You push the button for the funny noise. What's that? Do you want to push the button for the funny noise? That's right. Good job. That's right. We push the button for the funny noise. Good job. Oh, we leave it on the table. Do you want to push the button for the funny noise? That's right, Thaddeus. Good job. You push the button for the funny noise. Good job. Okay, so now we're going to start the real game, so I'll see you don't interact. Okay. All right, so you can pass the fluid over. Thank you. Okay, let's see what we have. Let's take a look. Ooh, we have strawberries. Do you want to push the button for a strawberry? You got a strawberry. You got 2 strawberries. Is that yummy? Yeah. Yeah, we push the button for strawberries. That's right. Look at all of these strawberries. That's right. You got 2. Now we push the button for more strawberries. You got 3 strawberries.
So this video show how the tasks were in our lab. The first part you saw, it was a training session for funny noise, then followed by the food and the non-food. We typically counterbalance. We always counterbalance. Either they will get the food first, or they will get the non-food first while they are in the lab. And you also might observe that it requires more button presses to earn the reward, which means the reinforcement getting harder and harder, and the infants have to work harder to gain their reinforcers. I run a series of studies. In study 1, we use a music DVD, the Baby Einstein's Baby McDonald on the Farm as a non-food activity. Here is showing, let me see if I can get this. So this graph show the infant status in relation to their food reinforcement, which is the FRR, the food reinforcement ratio. We found that overweight and obese infants in this red bar have significantly higher FRR compared to the lean individual. Interestingly, when we break down the food versus the DVD reinforcement, we actually do not find significant difference between the lean and overweight and obese infants in gaining access to food. They equally enjoy the food and equally work hard for the food. However, for the lean babies, the green bar here, they work harder for the non-food compared to the overweight and obese infants. We replicated our work, and we ran a second study using blowing bubbles as playing with bubble as a non-food activities. Again, we repeated our result. The overweight and obese individual has a significantly higher food reinforcing ratio. This red bar here, and when we break down to the food versus the non-food, which is the bubbles, similarly, we do not find significant reinforcement differences between the lean and overweight obese individuals, they equally work hard for the food. However, the lean individuals, the lean babies work harder for the barbers compared to the overweight obese individual. Based on the results of these two studies, we can conclude that infant weight status is associated with their FRR, their food reinforcement, relative food reinforcement. This relationship was strongly driven by the non-food alternatives. As a result, we can speculate that obesity may result from a lack of pleasurable alternatives and thereby increasing the reinforcing value of eating. The natural net questions, with this information, the natural net questions I had was, can we increase the reinforcing value of non-food alternatives among infants who are highly motivated to eat? To answer this question, we developed a 6-week pilot music intervention using the commercially available Music Together program to change babies' motivation for food to music. This program introduced children to the pleasure of music making with their parents rather than passively receiving it from CDs or TV. This program provides a rich variety of music engagement using instruments and activities. It was a pilot randomized control trial with a total of 27 families enrolled in the program. After the screening and pre-intervention assessment, families were randomized to either the music or the playdates control group. The purpose, again, is to assess the effects of a 6-week music program on the relative reinforcing value of food in infants with high motivation to eat. We were very encouraged by the result of this pilot study. This graph shows the change in FRR before and after the 6-week intervention. Here, the y-axis is the change, the magnitude of change. So we found that infants, family in the music program group significantly reduced their FRR compared to the playdates control group. Using these pilot results, I successfully received funding to conduct a bigger randomized control trial to examine the long-term effects of the music enrichment program on infants' eating behavior. 94 families with a 9 to 15 months old babies who has a high FRR were randomized to a 24 months music enrichment program or the playdates control group. This program consisted of a 12 months active phase with weekly classes and a 12 months of maintenance phase with a monthly classes. We have recently finished the intervention and started some data analysis. I'm excited to share with you the findings of our randomized control trial. We use intent to treat analysis. This graph shows the FRR of the music group, the dark circle, the closed circle, and the play group, which is the open circle, across the different time points. So time points is on x-axis. We assess participants' FRR at baseline, 0 month, 3, 6, 12, and 24 months post-intervention. We found that there would differentiate group changes across time for FRR. The music group had greater decreases compared with the playdate control group from baseline to 12 months, which is this time point we observe a significant decrease of FRR for family in the music group, but not any other time points. When we observe, when we examine the changes in their weight status using weight for length Z-score, there were no differentiate group changes across time looking at this figure, infants from both groups actually gradually increase their Z weight for length from baseline to 24 months intervention. However, interestingly, we observe an overall moderation effect for the weight status of our randomized family by the biological sex. The boy, when we look at this figure, the boys show significant Z weight for length attenuation in the music group, which is this dark circle, compared to the playdates group from 0 to 12 months. So the significant high points is here. On the other hand, girls show significant Z weight for length attenuation in the playdates group, which is this open circle, compared to the music group from 0 to 24 months. We are very surprised by these findings. We do have few speculation as why the music enrichment program worked for boys but not girls. And I would love to further discuss this with you during our Q&A section and to hear your suggestions. The next question our lab is interested to answer is that how does high food reinforcement ratio develop in some individuals and not in others, as evident by 9 months of age? All the findings of my works to this point have led me to believe that true obesity prevention might have a lot to do with one's non-food environment than their food environments. As mentioned previously, food is a primary reinforcer, and infants do not need to learn to want food. They come into the world prepared to eat, and they seek food while cry when they are hungry and gain satisfaction and pleasure from food. For the first few months of an infant's life, autonomy over how to spend their time and energy might be limited. However, by the end of the first year, as they have gained more motor control, they are faced with many choices with how to allocate their resources. For older infants, eating can often be a choice among many other activities, such as interacting with other siblings, parents, or playing with toys. In a recent publication, we found that not all infants with a big appetites, a big general appetites becomes obese later in life. When we examined a cohort of 143 infants in our lab, we found that the FRR mediated almost 50% of the relationship between big appetites and obesity risk later in life. This mediation was driven by actually their non-food reinforcement and not their food reinforcement. These findings indicate that the non-food environment can play a significant role in obesity development. Borrowing from the literature of environmental enrichment in basic animal research, studies have shown that environmental enrichment plays a significant role in attenuating substance abuse. For example, study by Cosgrove and colleagues show that infusion of cocaine significantly decreased when a running wheel was accessible to rats. Similarly, Graham and colleagues also demonstrated rats raised in a socially enriched environment responded less to sucrose pear cue compared to rats housed simply without novel objects. Using this theoretical framework, we submitted a grant to examine how an early enriched non-food environment characterized by high-quality parenting and accessibility to a variety of cognitive stimulating activities might play a role in the development of brain reward system that favors non-food rewards over food rewards and enhancing cognitive development for greater self-regulatory capacity early in life. For the last portion of my presentation, I would like to share with you some of my current works in preparation for future grant submissions in the area of infant diet and feeding practices, primarily in the area of added sugar consumption and hyperpalatable baby food consumption. Up to this point, my research program has been focusing on the non-food portion of the infant home environment. However, there is still a lot we don't know about early nutrition. Not only does NIH value this area as evident by their strategic plan, this topic has gained significant public interest. These are some of the recent headlines in news and social media in regard to early nutrition. It is the very first time that dietary guidelines for Americans, the 2020 and 2025 guidelines, released dietary recommendation for children younger than 2 years of age. However, we still don't fully know the impacts of dietary intake on infant excessive weight gain. In the past 2 years, my lab has been collecting and analyzing dietary intakes of infants and toddlers during complementary feeding period. We are particularly interested in examining the effect of added sugar consumption on excessive weight gain among infants and toddlers. Here are the 3 papers we have published recently. We found that high intake of added sugars is linked to rapid weight gain in infants. However, breastfeeding protected against this rapid weight gain. We also found that added sugars mediate the relation between pre-pregnancy BMI and infant rapid weight gain. Lastly, we demonstrated that association between added sugars from infant formulas and rapid weight gains in US infants and toddlers. This is a paper I would like to further discuss in my upcoming slides. Our lab also interested in infant snacking and infant hyperpalatable food consumption. Going back to the paper about added sugar in infant formula, our lab recently published this paper, and we are the very first lab to demonstrate that there is a high amount of added sugars in infant formula, and it links the links to rapid weight gain. Prior to our publication, a group of researchers in UK conducted a nutritional assessment of 250 formula products from 11 countries, and they demonstrated that formulas contain a mean of 5.9 grams of added sugars per 100 ml. It ranges from 1.1 to 9.8 grams per 100 ml of infant formula. Before I dive into the result of our paper, I would like to provide a definition of added sugar. So added sugar are those sugars or sweeteners added to foods during processing, such as sucrose, dextrose, corn syrup, honey, concentrates from fruits and vegetables, and so on. Lactose is a form of added sugar in infant formula products. As a reminder, we should look at what are some of the recommendations of added sugar consumption in other populations. For children 2 to 18 years of age, it was recommended they should not exceed 25 grams or 6 teaspoons of added sugar daily. Similarly, for adults, for males, the recommendation is 9 teaspoons or 36 grams of added sugar daily. And for female, the recommendation is 6 teaspoons or no more than 25 grams. To put things in perspective, a can of Coca-Cola has about 10 teaspoons of added sugar. So if you drink a can of Coca-Cola a day, you already exceeded the recommended added sugar guidelines. As mentioned previously, it is the very first time that dietary guidelines for Americans provided dietary recommendations for children younger than 2 years of age. Per this newly released guideline, infants are to avoid all added sugars. Here is a paragraph from the guideline, and I would like to read a few sentences from the guideline. It said that infants and young children have virtually no room in their diet for added sugars. This is because the nutrient requirements for infants and young children are quite high relative to their size, but the amount of complementary foods they consume is small. Complementary foods need to be nutrient dense and not contain additional calories from added sugars. In addition, low and no calorie sweeteners, which can also be called high intensity sweetener, are not recommended for children younger than age 2. Taste preferences are being formed during this time period, and infants and young children may develop preferences for overly sweet foods if introduced to very sweet foods during this time frame. So in our study, going back to our publication, when you look at this table, 97% of infants 9 to 12 months of age consume added sugars, and this amounts to about 7% of their total energy intake daily. And for toddlers, 13 to 15 months old, all of them, 100% of them have been introduced to added sugar, which amount to 4% of their total energy intake. Here are the top sources of added sugars for infants. The top 3 sources are infant formulas, followed by baby snacks and sweet bakery products. For toddlers, the top 3 sources were sweet bakery products, yogurt, and mixed dishes. Here is a table of the formula products consumed by our participants. We listed the products from the least amount of added sugar to the most amount of added sugar. The most amount of added sugar in our cohort is the store brand infant formula. For every 100 calories of the formula, there are 7.7 grams of added sugars. Again, to put things to perspective, a can of Coca-Cola has 39 grams of added sugars. 9 ounces of the store brand infant formula will have 13 grams of added sugars. If an infant consumes 3 9 ounces of this store brand infant formula, he or she would have been consuming a can of Coca-Cola daily. Here is an infographic of the main findings of our paper. I will guide you through this infographic. So we mentioned previously, I have shown that the added sugar for infants really primary sources from infant formula, about 65%, and the rest of them are from table foods, which is other food sources. For toddlers, added sugar from formula actually is only 7%, and the rest of them, the sources are from table foods. When we look at association between the added sugar consumption and rapid weight gains, for formula for infants, the added sugar from infant formula significantly correlated with their rapid weight gains. For toddler, the added sugars from table food significantly correlated to their weight gain. When we look at infants who are primary formula fed versus breastfed, the primary formula fed infants have a significantly higher risk to experience rapid weight gain, which is the weight for age percentile crossing, is a measure of rapid weight gain compared to the formula, compared to the breastfed, primary breastfed infants. Added sugars in our study, added sugars in formula product ranges from 2.9 gram to 7.7 gram per 100 gram kcal. As I mentioned to you previously, 3 bottles of 9 ounces of the store-bought brand infant formula will equal to a can of Coca-Cola. Lastly, I would like to quickly touch on some of the work I have been doing with Dr. Fazzino from KU Lawrence in the area of hyperpalatable baby food consumption. So what is hyperpalatable foods? Researchers have been calling this class of foods processed foods or sweets with alluring combinations of fat, sugar, carbohydrates, and sodium. However, none has yet to offer a broadly acceptable quantitative definition. Tara was the first researcher to offer data-driven definition of the term hyperpalatable foods, and her work was published last year. I would like to show you this video to better understand how she quantified hyperpalatable food and the category of hyperpalatable food in our food system. See.
Scientists say that food in America is hyperpalatable, and that's a bad thing. Tara Fazzino, assistant professor of psychology at the University of Kansas, who led the study, says that most foods eaten in the U.S., including some marketed for weight loss, contain ingredients which make people want more. These hyperpalatable foods contain certain combinations of sugar, fat, salt, and carbs, which tap into the brain's reward system and make it hard for us to stop eating them. According to the study published in the journal Obesity, hyperpalatable foods fall into 3 categories. Foods where at least 25% of the calories come from fat and salt makes up 0.03% salt of their weight, those with at least 20% calories from fat and 20% from sugar, and items getting 40% of calories from carbs and 0.2% of weight from salt. Foods, for example, deemed hyperpalatable include hot dogs, which marry salt and fat, brownies, which bring together fat and sugar, and pretzels, which contain salt and carbohydrates. To come up with this definition, researchers used special software to see which ingredients in 7,757 foods that are sold in the U.S. actually shared. They reviewed 14 existing studies on foods manufactured to contain ingredients, which makes them more appealing. Now, based on the new criteria, the team found that 62% of food sold in the U.S. was hyperpalatable. Of those, 70% were high in fat and salt, 25% high in fat and sugar, and 16% featured a lot of carbs and salt. Among foods labeled as having no reduced or low levels of sugar, fat, sodium, or calories, 49% were hyperpalatable. Fazzino, who is also Associate Director of the Kofrin Logan Center for Addiction Research and Treatment at KU's Lifespan Institute, told Newsweek, these findings indicate that many foods marketed for weight management may have characteristics of enhanced palatability and make us want to eat more.
Well, that was kind of stunning to know that about 60% of our food system we consider hyperpalatable. Okay. So when we analyze the commercially available baby foods, the good news is only 12% of baby foods were considered hyperpalatable. However, when we look at the dietary intakes of the infants that we collected, nearly all infants and toddlers have been exposed to hyperpalatable food, either from the baby foods or from the adult foods, which is the table foods. Infants consume on average 38% of their daily food calories from hyperpalatable food. Toddlers consume 52% on average of their daily calories from hyperpalatable food. These figures show the proportion. So as we mentioned, the average 38% for infants, and you can see that the highest really proportion distribution is the 20 to 40%. We have about 40 infants in this category. This proportion, and then for older infants, they consume more hyperpalatable food. The average is 52%, and again, anywhere from 20 to 60%, the majority of them fall under. I would like to conclude my talk today by emphasizing the importance of cultivating pleasure in infants via non-food alternatives to prevent maladaptive eating behaviors. Especially nowadays, our food system has become more hyperpalatable. Obesity prevention is never too early to start. Thank you very much for being here today and listen to my talk. And I would like to thank my collaborators from my old institute and my current institute here at Children Mercy. And of course, without the dedication and commitments of my staff members and students, this work would have not been possible. Thank you, and I'm opening up the floor for discussion.
Thank you so much, Ling. That was really eye-opening information. I specifically love the videos. Really great.
Yeah.
Great pieces to include there. I will go ahead and open it up for questions. If anyone on the call right now wants to just unmute themselves and ask anything of Dr. Kong. I will go ahead and get us started and then just give people an opportunity to join in if they're interested. So you talked a lot about the feeding environment. And so as a dietitian, my background is, clinical nutrition. I've been at Children's Mercy most of my career. So worked in pediatrics and did do some work with infants and infant feeding. And one of the things I've noticed over time is how parents may feed their children. And when you're feeding through a bottle, no matter what it is, whether it's breast milk or infant formula, you tend, and this is just my observation, parents may feed based on a schedule versus feeding cues. So I wondered how that might have fed into any of the research that you did. So were questions asked of parents about their feeding style or how they fed prior to getting involved in your studies?
Yep. So you will be surprised, actually feeding at the breast, the percentage of feeding at the breast is not high, due to a lot of the reason is because they have to go back to work, right? And to answer your question, really, breast milk formula in border feeding, people have thought that formulas feeding cause obesity potentially because, just like you say, they have certain amount, they want them to finish certain time, the parents might have less sensitive to the cues of the baby, right? But go along with their own schedule and amount they would like to feed. But we do not see that in the sense that when parents put the breast milk in the border, they still have lower obesity risk. So
Okay.
it's not about really the schedule, the cue is really what do we feed the baby.
Yeah.
It's the what, you know, breast milk, formula, both in the border, we still see these differences. And it's kind of scary in the sense that, wow, what is in that formula, right, causing this rapid weight gain. Previously, before my group, Julie Manella is a researcher from Philadelphia. She has studied heavily in looking at protein contents of the formula. She proposed is the protein content causing rapid weight gains. When I talked to her about it, I got the information of the products, 2 products she used to randomize to do the study that she published in American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. When I look at those 2 products, and they're significantly different in the amount of added sugars. And our suspicious is the added sugar and not the protein content.
Yeah. Well, the other piece tied to that is introduction of solids. And so when, you know, it looked like in your lab, babies are coming in around 9 months.
Yeah.
And so introduction of solids, as you can imagine, varies significantly. Some might start introducing cereal into bottles as early as 6 to 8 weeks, but many families and pediatricians recommend not starting solids until 4 to 6 months, but there's still a lot of variability with that. And what you start with varies significantly. Have you noticed any differences related to introduction of solids or which food a family starts with?
Yeah, so one of the scary things from our study that I presented to you, those who are being fed formula, they start solid food early than the breastfed parents. Secondly, those who are primary formula fed, because they have been introduced sugar at such an early age because of the amount of added sugar in infant formula. When we examine the table food, the complementary food, those individuals, those baby consume significantly higher added sugar compared to my breastfed babies. Because their threshold is so much higher, they require higher added sugar to gain satisfaction, which is really scary. You know, that is just another affirmation for me to know that it is the added sugar in infant formula have triggered this eating behavior that, you know, potentially project the rest of their life. You know, if you're being introduced added sugar sweet at such a young age, you just require a lot more as you continue to grow, and that's what we've seen in our study.
Interesting.
Hi, Dr. Kong. Great presentation. I've seen it a couple times and I enjoyed every time. And this is especially interesting for me as a parent who's introduced solid foods to their daughter last week for the first time. So we're going through it. In terms of, you talked about added sugar. What about dietary sugar in foods? Is there any indication that it helps to delay fruits or start with things like vegetables as you introduce foods rather than fruits?
Yeah, so
from the sugar perspective anyway.
And Robbie, most likely you will know that when you try to, you know, introduce fruits to your babies, fruit is more receptive because it's sweet. You know, they just will want it. Vegetable, we have some concern in, and maybe a little bit resistant from the baby because it's just potentially it's bitter or there's no taste, right? So the recommendation really now in according to Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, we're really introducing vegetable as the first food, and then proteins, high protein foods like meat, eggs, and those are the primary food they will say start introducing. And fruits, we never really, as an infant researcher, we never worry about if the infant is going to accept fruits, because they are going to, it's just like, it's sweet, depending on which fruit. Some citric fruit may be less than, some other more carbohydrate driven food. So yeah, the recommendation really is, vegetables, high protein food to the baby. Used to be, they say cereal. Cereal again is high carb and it's sweet, and I think the recommendation has slowly changed as we learn more about eating pattern, eating preferences, food preferences, starting at such a young age can really project their future eating pattern.
Okay, well, my baby's gonna get barbecue tonight then. What was your recommendation?
No sauce.
No sauce, just the meat.
Yeah. My second question is, you mentioned at the start of your presentation about all the determinants of obesity in children, or specifically in infants, and you mentioned there was a lack of evidence on, or lack of research on physical activity. I know you guys are exploring that a little bit. Can you just share a little bit more about that in terms of why there might be gaps in that research, and if that's maybe changing?
Yeah, I think why studying physical activity younger than 2 years of age is hard is because of the motor skill development, right? And babies that start walking maybe at 9 months might be more active than a baby who start walking at 14 months, So there's a lot of correlation with their motor skill development. So I think it's really tricky for physical activity researcher who doesn't study child development to try to understand physical activity, impact of physical activity on weight, infant weight gain. I think these two areas of researchers should work together to figure this out, And besides the motor skill, and then depending on the caregiver, right? If let's say I put an activity monitor on the baby, if they have caregiver carry them or go for a stroll, the activity monitor is going to count that as the baby's physical activity, which might not be true because they're being carried, So it's just difficult. It's just difficult to assess, I think. So I think we face some hindrance in understanding physical activity, at this age. So those are some of the speculation I have. I just think that obesity researcher, has not crossed the discipline to work with child development, mental side individual to understand, physical activity during this time.
Thanks.
I have a question. I'm working the WIC program, and in WIC and in the general population, we know that a large number of infants take at least some formula, if not all formula. Would you, given the variation in the added sugar content of formulas, would it be your recommendation that there be federal guidelines as far as that ingredient in formulas?
Yeah, that is my goal of my, my work that I published. I was hoping to gain some traction from the public to pressure food company to not add added sugar in the formula products. And interestingly, when I published my work, I gained a lot of traction in Europe countries. Like it was, I think many media sources pick it up. but not so much in United States. And I don't really know the reason why. I think, there's a lot of food, lobbying and whatnot in our country. And actually New York Times did pick it out and interview me, and they have not published. I don't know if they will publish the work. I wish they would, because really the parents and the publics could be pressuring the food company to reduce their added sugar in their products. There are many reasons why you could think of why a formula company want to add added sugar into their products. First of all, it's cheaper, the cost might be more cost effective. Secondly, if a baby like this product because it's sweet, the mom will think that, oh, my baby really like this brand, this product, I'm going to keep buying it because the baby is drinking it really well. So you can imagine, why food company want to add sugar into their formula, right?
Another thing I was just noticing, I pulled up the Similac Pro Advance ingredient list because that's what WIC provides, is Similac products. And just it lists lactose as the second ingredient, but it doesn't specifically say how much is in the formula. So even if you have a parent who is wanting to look at that, it's not that simple to know how much is in the formula that you're purchasing.
Yes, so in United States, it's not required yet to have added sugar label in the nutrition fact. So FDA has been talking about it and has been regulating and said that, oh, by certain month, certain year, actually 2020 or 2021, they say, no, the nutrition fact really need to have added sugar itself as a nutrition fact on the nutrition fact. But the food company has been lobbying, so they have been delaying that requirement. Most likely Shelley, know about this, and which is so unfortunate, right? If they have this added sugars label right on the nutrition fact, parents hopefully would be able, readily available for them. Oh, this have so much added sugar. They are not required to tell you in their nutrition fact. The ingredients list is where they do have to provide. So how my data, how I came up my data, how is from Nutritionist Pro, which is a software from University of Minnesota. And even though they couldn't get the nutrition fact, but they're able to put in the recipe to come out the added sugar amount of all brands and products. So actually they have 100 some in the Nutritionist Pro program. If any one of you need that list, I am more than welcome to send that to you, because we extract all of them out, and because we are just interested in the product in the United States. How does it compare across different brands and across different types as well?
Yeah, it's interesting to know how you got that information. I think your work is definitely needed and applicable in what we do.
Thank you, Lori.
Yeah. With that, I'm going to invite you all to join me in standing up wherever you are and giving her a standing ovation. Thank you so much, Dr. Kong. We really appreciate you joining us this morning.
Yeah, it's a pleasure and nice to meet some of you here. And hopefully I got invited back in the future, right, Robin?
Absolutely.
Have a good one.
Thank you. And with that, I am going to invite Mackenzie Helmick to join us now. I want to thank Mackenzie for joining us. She is a fitness instructor at the Children's Mercy Fitness Center, and she's going to lead us in a little bit of a physical activity break since we've been spending most of the last hour probably sitting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mackenzie. Mackenzie, take it away.
Everybody, can everybody see me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, well, thank you for that introduction, Shelly. We'll go ahead and get started. So we're gonna just start with some neck stretches. So just place one hand on the side of your head. And then that arm goes straight down, trying to reach those fingertips all the way towards the ground. Good, we're gonna switch, do the same thing on the other side. Try and relax your neck as much as possible. Reach those fingertips down. And then we're going to take both hands behind the head, elbows forward, pull down, round at the neck. You can kind of rock your head side to side here if that feels good to you. And then we're going to go into some shoulder rolls. So just a few to the back, and a few to the front. And then we'll cross one arm over and pull, and we're going to add a torso rotation here. So just rotating to the side. Should feel this all throughout that shoulder. And we'll switch sides, same thing on the other side. Rotate the other way. Good, and we're going to go into our lat stretch. So bend at the waist. Reach over. Should feel this stretch all the way through the side of your body. And switch sides. Same thing on the other side. If you need some extra help or pressure, you can grab that wrist and pull for a little bit of extra on this stretch. Good, and we'll switch to our lower body. So we're going to start with the quad stretch. If you're still seated, you'll need to scoot to the end of your chair and turn to the side. Hopefully you're standing with me. And then really push those hips forward. Should feel this all throughout the front of your leg. And then we're going to take that foot that we have hold up, sweep the leg through, heel down, toes up. Reach down with the toes. The opposite hand can just be supported on your knee. And if you can, pull back on those toes, you'll feel it a little bit more in the calf. And come up, good. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Quad stretch first. Pull that heel in, push the hips forward. Run all the way from your hip joint, all the way down to your knee joint. And then swing that leg through, heel down, toes up. Reach down for those toes. Pull those toes back. And come on up. Last lower body stretch we're going to do is our glute stretch. So cross that leg over. Squat down, push the knee down, hold on to something if you need to. Apply pressure on the knee, flex that foot. And if you need more of a stretch, go ahead and move your chest a little bit closer to your leg. Good, switch to the other side. Same thing. Cross the leg over, flex the foot, push the knee down. Relax that glute as much as possible. And move your chest closer to your knee if you need to. Good. All right, last thing, interlace those fingers. Round in the back, rock side to side. Couple high, couple low. And whenever you're ready, reach all the way up. Big deep breath in. Exhale, reach down for those toes. Or you can grab your elbows here and rock side to side. Release the lower back a little bit. And then let's pedal our legs a couple times. So bend one each. And switch. One more time. And roll back up nice and slow whenever you're ready. That's all I got for you guys.
Thank you, Mackenzie.
You're
That was
welcome.
awesome. I don't know about anybody else, but I felt a bunch of cracks and creaks. All good.
Perfect, good.
Those are great examples of things we can do at our desk just to take a break during the day. So thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye, guys.
So with that, I know we're a little behind schedule, but I want to go ahead and transition into our physical activity plan sector updates. I am going to share, let's see, I'm going to try to share my screen again. And let me get this back to the presentation. There we go. Can you see that?
We
Do you
can
see
see the slides, the notes.
You see the
view.
notes too?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing for just a second. Try that one more time. How's that?
Yeah.
Better? Okay, great. So this is just a reminder of the different sectors for the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan. We're going to go ahead and start with the school sector. Maybe. Okay, can you see that? I have to apologize to Robin Stewie, who is the sector lead for school. She had to jump off. She had a previous meeting at 10:30. So she is asked me to share her update for her. And that did not do what I wanted it to. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second so I can actually read her update. She shared it with me. So as you may remember, the Healthy Schools Work Group created a short survey for schools to help us learn more about their needs surrounding professional development. That survey is still open. So I want to encourage any of you, if you work with schools, if you haven't taken it, please do so. And please encourage any school partners you work with to complete it as well. We value all feedback that we can get for that survey. The Healthy Schools Group is working on setting their priorities for 2020. 2022, good grief. I should probably not talk and, oh my gosh, try to share my screen at the same time. This is.
Shelley, do you want me to do some updates while you get that sorted out?
Do you mind? And I will, I'll just skip through the slides. Okay.
No problem. I'll give some updates on 3 sectors I support. I'll start out with mass media. Mass media is our newest sector, and it deals with messaging around physical activity and lifestyle campaigns and efforts. And we are in the strategy and tactic development process for the mass media sector. We've had 3 great meetings already. Our next one is scheduled. It normally would occur at the end of each month. So we're going to skip the December meeting. And our next meeting will be January 25th in 2022. And we'll be discussing tactics at that meeting. So we anticipate a January meeting and then a wrap-up meeting in February, and the development process for the mass media sector will be completed. Then we'll shift into implementation projects. It's a really great group of people that have been joining that meeting. A lot of great content expertise. Shelley and I always walk away very impressed following that meeting. The next sector I'll talk about is the sports sector. Sports sector is one of the, has just amazing opportunities given the role of sports in society, in particular in Kansas City, as it relates to physical activity. As we know, sports are just so popular in this region. We are done with the strategy and tactic development. We did that over the course of the summer and into the fall. And those strategies and tactics will be available on our website soon. Probably in the next week or so, they'll be up on our KC Physical Activity Plan website. We'll release them when we release the second edition of the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan in late winter or early spring 2022. We are moving to implementation projects, though. That's our next priority. And so our next meeting is going to be on January 19th, 2022. And how the sports sector will operate is we'll have periodic meetings as a group, as a large group, but we'll have more frequent meetings for specific topics. So our topics are going to be around creating a unifying body for sports in the region. The second one is going to be around access to sports participation, and that covers a lot of different things. Obviously, access to sports participation, as the name implies, but also other things are like sports sampling, playing sports throughout the year, promoting unstructured sports opportunities, so like free play opportunities, non-competitive sports opportunities, and improvement of physical literacy. And that kind of relates to what Dr. Kong was mentioning about motor development and things like that. Obviously, we won't talk about sports in infants, but in kids as they age, developing physical literacy so they continue sports participation throughout adulthood. And the final group will be around improving sports participation through quality sports programming, quality practices, creating safe and inclusive environments for sports participation. So we'll focus a lot on coaches, on parents, and in addition to additional work on actual participants of sports. The last sector that I'll talk about is the physical activity, the PAPI group. So that's the Parks and Infrastructure group. We're meeting later this month to discuss when our next meeting will be. So stay tuned on that. So those are the updates that I have. So back to you, Shelley.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks for stepping in for those technical difficulties. I'm going to go back to the school sector. So I just mentioned the survey. This is a QR code with a link to the survey, just to remind yourself what might be in it. We will be sending this information out through the monthly newsletter again. And so if you want to forward it on to other school partners, we invite you to do that. The other school update is I would like to share that Michelle Dake will be stepping down as co-chair from that work group. After 7 years with KC Healthy Kids, she has decided to take a step back and transition from youth initiatives directors to full-time mom. So this is a picture of the two darling kids that she is going to be spending more of her time with. We will miss her greatly. She brings great expertise to the Healthy School work group and the larger group as well. We're really excited for her and her family. So join me in wishing her well and thanking her for her leadership with us over the past 7 years. So thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Shelley and Dr. Shook and everybody weighing in. It's been a true honor working with this group. So thank you all.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda to give a brief update for early childhood.
Thanks, Shelley. Good morning, everybody. So the early childhood sector group has really been focusing on professional development, which is one of our priority areas. This month, the Missouri Department of Health and Human Services, the Move Smart Child Care Program, did sponsor a professional development opportunity last Saturday, we had 137 participants join the training, which was really focused on play and movement with infants and toddlers. So this is one of our milestone opportunity or activities that we have completed, and we are continuing to look across both Kansas and Missouri early childhood initiatives and organizations that support our sector, and finding out what professional development opportunities are embedded into professional development framework and building from that. When our group met last month, we did focus on some of our priority areas that we wanted to focus on for 2022. One area that we would want to move forward with is there are a lot of resources and activities that we would like to share with the early childhood sector, prioritizing on activities for the professionals, the colleagues that are working day in and day out, but also for the families. There's been a lot of work that's already been done, so it's just kind of accumulating the resources together and then disseminating them out to the early childhood, early care and education settings. We also are going to focus on for 2022 how we are documenting and tracking our milestones and activities that we are completing. And then we're also looking for an opportunity maybe for a large goal is Missouri is revisiting their childcare regulations, and there may be some leverage that our group can focus on around physical activity. And so we're going to dive deeper into that. We typically meet on the fourth Thursday of every month. We are meeting today after this meeting, so anyone is welcome to join our group. We are going to be assessing our meeting needs for those attendees, and so we will be sending out a link to a survey to find if that time in the morning is still working. Again, typically we do it the fourth Thursday from 9 a.m. to 10:30. Those are my updates.
Thanks so much, Rhonda. The next update I'm going to give is related to faith-based settings. So as you have heard me say in the past, that sector has had a number of challenges over the past year, just getting back to in-person church and mental health issues related to the congregation. So I'm happy to announce that I'm meeting with the sector co-leads next week to really think about what we want to do and how that sector wants to move forward for 2022. So that's the only update with that group. And for the healthcare sector, as Robin sort of mentioned with sport, the healthcare sector also has 3 subgroups that are active right now. They are billing or reimbursement. So we've got a small group looking at how do we do a better job of getting reimbursement for physical activity assessment and counseling. We feel like if that can happen, more people or providers would be willing to include that in healthcare visits. The next one is curriculum. So it's looking at exercise is medicine curriculum and including that within educational settings for healthcare professionals. We're focusing primarily on medical students right now, but we have opportunities to include this sort of education with public health, dietitians, physical and occupational therapists, pharmacists, nurses, etc. So that's another subgroup of the healthcare sector. And then the last one is Just Walk. The Just Walk, if you haven't heard of this, Just Walk is powered by Walk with a Doc, which is encouraging walks with healthcare professionals. Our tentative start for that program will be on March 12th of 2022. The way that program is going to be set up, we'll meet once a month on the second Saturday of the month. We're starting at Pearson Park in Kansas City, Kansas. So I want to thank Wyandotte County Parks and Rec for partnering with us in this. And we have paused on starting this in person because we're just not sure that people are really going to want to start a program like this as winter comes. So in conjunction with our program, we have started recording some healthcare providers talking about a health related topic. So the Just Walk program will be a 1-hour activity. The first 5 to 10 minutes will be a healthcare professional sharing information on a health-related topic. We have 3 recordings. One you can see a picture of right here. These are on our YouTube channel, where the healthcare provider talks about a health-related topic. In fact, Dr. Robertson is talking about exercise as medicine and the importance of being physically active. And we're encouraging people to listen to that while they're walking or doing another physical activity of their choice until we can get started in person. That QR code that you see there takes you directly to our Just Walk page on the Walk with a Doc website. So I encourage any of you or all of you to take a look at those and share those as much as you can. And that healthcare group is meeting in January. The date was included on the previous slide, and you'll be able to sign up for any of these sectors through our newsletters and by completing the evaluation. So you've already heard these updates, so I'm going to switch right into weighing in reminders. This QR code will take you to our newsletter sign up, but I'm going to skip through this really quickly because we will also have, again, in the evaluation, an opportunity for you to sign up to join any of the sectors and get on our email distribution list. I would like to ask all of you to provide your feedback. The weighing in team has been working on rebranding our efforts. So the name weighing in has been in place for over 10 years. And at the time it was created, the name sort of had a double meaning. It was helping us identify our that we were working on childhood obesity, and it was asking for input. So for partners to sort of weigh in to advance our efforts. Well, as many of you know, we've shifted our language from obesity prevention to the promotion of healthy lifestyle behaviors. And so to that end, we're rethinking our name and are really looking to you all, our active and engaged partners, to provide input. So you're welcome to scan this QR code and fill out a really short survey. This information will also be included in our monthly newsletter. So if it's more convenient to fill it out, then you can do that as well. The next piece I want to share with you is an opportunity by a psychologist here at Children's Mercy. We invite you to share this opportunity throughout your networks. Again, this information has been included in our monthly newsletter and will be included in the upcoming one in December. This is a program called Prepped and Ready. We are inviting families, parents to participate and watch this online video series. This is for parents and caregivers who are raising teens. They're asking for a little bit of feedback related to this. So if you happen to have parents and families as part of your who you reach out to, feel free to share this information with them. If you want to share it sooner than we're giving it to you in our monthly newsletter, please feel free to reach out to me or to weighing in email, which is weighingin@cmh.edu. We can send this information in a little bit easier format for you to share within your own channels. And as many of you have heard, we have open positions, an open position at Children's Mercy Hospital. So I want to encourage you to, again, share this with your networks. If you know people who might be interested in joining the weighing in team, we can include that link, and again, look to our newsletter for where to go to apply for that position. The last part of our meeting today is really going to be partner updates. I hope you all have heard of Champions for Health or are familiar with it. I'm going to invite Michelle to join us one additional time to give any other information to the group related to Champions for Health. I know they have a deadline coming up soon.
Thanks, Shelley. Yeah, we are in the last week and a half for the Champions for Health Challenge. So it's an opportunity for students grades 3 through 8 to submit a wellness project for their school and earn up to $1,000 for projects. The great photos are from our Youth Summit in 2020. Unfortunately, this year we won't have a Youth Summit gathering in person like you see here again, just due to COVID concerns. But all of our participating schools, the winners will be announced this February. So the students will have time to finish their projects before the end of the year. So anybody who works with schools, elementary and middle, looking for some support for wellness projects, please feel free to reach out. So my transition does not happen until after this closes. So I am here to help for the next week and a half. So feel free, and I will be there to help you get it done before next week's deadline. So the deadline is December 17th. Again, I'll put my email in the chat and you can reach out if you have anybody interested and want some help getting it done.
Thanks so much, Michelle. Are there any other partner updates that anyone on the call would like to share? Please feel free to continue to unmute if you have anything you'd like the group to know. But while we're doing that, I do want to make sure everyone has the opportunity to fill out our evaluation, which you can access through this QR code. Open up the cameras on your phone. Your feedback is valuable to us. In fact, we have made changes to our how we hold our meetings based on the feedback that you give us. We'd love to hear your ideas on what to include in future meetings. We are happy to be able to give you the date for the next weighing in quarterly meeting, which will be Thursday, March 10th. It will be from 9 to 11 a.m. We are crossing our fingers that we have the ability to at least meet partially in person. So pencil that date in and complete your evaluations. So with that, I'm just going to leave this slide up because we're going to be transitioning from the weighing in meeting into the early childhood sector meeting. And again, I want to thank you all for joining us this morning, and I want to wish you a happy, healthy holiday season.
We start recording for the main meeting.
Yes.